And we are live. Hey guys, thank you for coming to Author Chat tonight. We are here with the author of Roaring, Lindsey. Is it Duga?
Duga, yeah, you got it right.
I
Well
love
done.
this cover. We're gonna have conversations about this cover because I need it broken down. This cover is gorgeous.
I'll do
Love
my
this
best.
cover. So you guys know the drill. If you would like to ask a question, toss it in the live chat below. For some reason, YouTube is not permitting you to do that. You can tweet it out or Instagram it to me or DM me. Just make sure you tag me, and I will find it. So we're going to jump off here right now as I get notifications on my phone. Introduce yourself and how many books you have out in your journey becoming an author. And your puppy. Don't forget to introduce your puppy.
Oh, I will. Hi everyone. My name is Lindsey Duga. I am a young adult and middle grade author. My first book is Kiss of the Royal, and this is a young adult fantasy novel. It is about princesses and princes and magic kisses, and the fun twist on that is princesses can only use their magic kiss as a weapon if kissed by another prince or a partner, and it helps them defeat magical creatures and dark spells. And it's such a weird concept. I love explaining that to people because they're like, oh, that's crazy, let me have it right now. And then my second book is Glow of the Fireflies. I like to describe this as basically nature spirits in the Smoky Mountains. If anybody likes Princess Mononoke or the Studio Ghibli films like Spirited Away, it's that kind of aesthetic, but set in the Smokies in Tennessee. And then my third book is The Haunting with Scholastic. If anybody likes really fun ghost stories, think of Mary Downing Hahn and Betty Brenwright, even a little Goosebumps. If you like spooky stories for middle graders, that book is for you. And then, of course, while we're all here today, is Roaring, which is the young adult paranormal romance set in the 1920s. So this is, oh man, I love this book so much. But it's basically what happens when mobsters run with monsters. So think of the criminal underground life of the mobsters in organized crime in the 1920s, but incorporating monsters like Cyclops and Gorgons and sirens and werewolves and dragons and like all those types of fun monsters, but set in the 1920s. So it's like Great Gatsby meets This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, which I love that book. And then my author journey, I guess that's kind of a longer conversation, but I'll try and sum it up. I started when I was, I would say like 12, 13, writing books with a friend. We would each have a character and then we would trade off and like give each other our snippets of those books, trade back and forth. And it was a way to like stay in touch with a really good friend all through high school whenever she moved away. But whenever we went to college, we went our separate ways, and she didn't really care to write, but I was bitten. I absolutely loved writing books, and I just had to start writing by myself if I wanted to write. So I created my first novel, which I called Scribe of the Stars, which was a middle grade kind of adventure story in the themes of Rick Riordan. I was really into The Lightning Thief and all those books at that time. I wrote that in college, and I realized it was not ready for agent life yet, but I did learn a lot during that time. I went to so many writing conferences, and I met other aspiring writers and got to know other mentor authors that helped me out on my writing journey until I went through Kiss of the Royal was actually my third book that I was trying to get, agented. And I actually used hashtag PitMad, which I'm sure if anybody who's aspiring writers out there probably well familiar with Twitter and publishing Twitter, so to speak. So that's actually how I got the interest of Entangled Publishing, which is Entangled Teen is my publisher for all of my young adult novels. And they really fell in love with the Kiss of the Royal concept. I actually got the deal pretty much before I got an agent, which is kind of rare for a lot of writers. And yeah, and then the rest is kind of history. Just started writing as much as I could, submitting my new ideas to editors. And, even once you get published, it is still hard to get published again. I will say that. But yeah, I think that's a good summary of my writing journey and my books.
Awesome. So what was that title again that you wrote in college?
Oh, it was called Scribe of the Stars. So
Ooh.
constellations descended to Earth as like real creatures. Like Ursa Major was a giant bear, and
Oh, wow.
she was a part of a tribe of like an ancient people that even came before Mesopotamia, in which they were ruled by the stars. And she was part of like, and it was the zodiac, a lot of
Mhm.
Pisces and Gemini and all that stuff. So
So you should
yeah.
redo that as a young adult and then have it printed, because that is like right up my alley.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds amazing. I love it.
Thank you. I've actually thought about looking back at that manuscript because I had so many ideas. I was like, I know what the second book's going to be about, and I know what the third, and I know how the series is going to end. And it was really fun. And each of like the nights that she would encounter were the stars of the constellations. So there was like a whole backstory to it. It was really fun. So,
Ooh,
it's a good idea. I might think about trying to make it into YA.
it's like, if you need any help, you have my information.
Okay.
I will
Got
help in any way that I can, because that sounds so good.
Oh, thank
So
you.
how did you come up with the idea for Roaring?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So I would say so my brother is an actor, and he did a lot of theater in the Houston area. And now he teaches theater kids at middle school, and he's I've seen a lot of his plays, right? So the last play that I saw him in before I started writing this book was The Great Gatsby. And I was just like, man, this era is like so cool. Like the aesthetic is so awesome. And I started to think about like all the other like Chicago and all the other works that take place in the 1920s. And I started thinking of like mobsters. And then I was like, oh man, what if I had a singer in a speakeasy? And this is the time where my friend also took me a speakeasy in New York and Albany. And I was like, this is so cool. Like I'm in love with this aesthetic and this world and this theme. And I just thought it was so neat. So I was like, what if she's a singer who's also a siren, and people keep coming back to her speakeasy and her bar to listen to her sing, so she entrances all the patrons. And so that idea just kind of snowballed into like, what if the entire criminal underworld had monster parts in them somehow, some way? Like what if it was connected to those types of things? So I started thinking of like, Greek mythology, huge fan of that. But not just Greek mythology, like werewolves, golems, vampires, any monster that you could possibly think of that would fit into this world that I created. I tried to create different parts. So that's kind of where that idea stemmed from, is sort of like the whole aesthetic of the 1920s and then putting it with monsters. And that's just how that concept was born.
That is so cool. So what was the most surprising thing you felt when creating this book?
Most surprising thing. Um, I kind of surprised myself in a few of the twists and turns that the last book, or like the last part of the book, takes. So Colt, who is my main guy character, he because the book is told in alternating points of view. It's Eris, who is the siren, and then Colt, who is the specialized agent from the Bureau of Investigation, which is the FBI. He's sent to bring her in because her voice could be a danger to the country, a danger to society. And so he's sent to bring her in. So he's a monster hunter, so to speak. And I knew I wanted him to be more than human. And I was trying to figure out like, what is he going to be? And when I figured out what he was going to be and how he was going to be revealed, to Eris, because she actually doesn't know what he is for the majority of the book, I was like, oh my God, I know what I'm going to do. And then there's a big reveal at the end of the book that really guts my main character. Like, it is a big blow to her. And I was almost crying while I was writing this part, because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst for Eris. I feel so bad for her. But whenever I thought of it, it was kind of like I leaned over to, because I was writing with one of my really good author friends, and I grabbed her arm and I was just like, oh, I know the twist. Like, it was just one of those, oh my God, I have an idea and it's going to be really awesome. And it was just one of those inspirational moments while I was writing, that I think as an author, whenever you get those moments, it doesn't always happen while you're writing, or it doesn't always happen, sometimes you have to talk through it with people and other critique partners. And so me just getting it out of the blue and that coming to me, I was just like, oh, this is amazing. I'm so excited.
That's so cool. So let's talk about this cover. What exactly is on the cover of this? Because it's like, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, that's an owl. I'm like, oh wait, no, it's not. It looks like waves. But then it also looks like hair. So what exactly is on this cover, and how does it tie into the book? Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. My publisher sent this to me, and it was, first of all, it was very late. They sent me the cover and they're like, we hope you really like it. And I was like, I love it. I have no idea what it is, but I love it. Like, because it's so beautiful and eye-catching and artistic and abstract. And I was like, this is just so cool. But yeah, and I could tell they went through a lot of revisions, because at the end of the file that they sent me, it was like revision 13 or whatever. And I was like, oh my goodness, they went through a lot of changes for this particular cover. And when they landed on this, I just didn't really want to ask, like, what's it supposed to be? I have my own theories though, right? So like, in Greek mythology, a siren, what Eris is in the book, is sort of known as like a sea creature. In the Odyssey, Greek mythology, they are supposed to lure sailors to their death at sea. So I think it's an interpretation of what a siren could potentially be in mythology. You can it definitely gets some undersea vibes. And I think that's what they were trying to go for with like the whole paranormal creature monster thing. The font is very Art Deco, which is very, in tune with the 1920s and the whole jazz life. I think this eye is, like you said, it kind of looks like an owl, kind of looks like a moon. It can interpret it. I think it's her pearl. So in the book, Eris has a pearl that gives her power as a siren. And so in my head, I think that circular moon thing is more like her pearl. So I think it's just an abstract version of a sea creature, of a siren, and then you put that together with the Art Deco style of the 1920s, and I think that's what they were trying to go for. I love it.
I love it.
But I don't know what it's like.
Like Jinx. I love it. I love it too, because it's like the top part kind of looks like a wave, and then it looks like it maybe goes down into her hair, and it's so pretty. I love that so much. It's so pretty.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, it was so much fun to create like graphics and stuff using this. Yeah, it's my favorite cover so far, I would have to say, because it's just so cool looking.
I love the other one too. The I can never remember the title. Kiss
the Royal.
Kiss the Royal. Yeah. I love that cover as well.
I love this cover too. I have gotten so many compliments from it. I will tell you like a quick story about it. So whenever I first got it, it did not have the sword, like it didn't have the dagger. It was just a very hot pink, aesthetic version. And I was just like, oh, it kind of looks like an Avril Lavigne album cover from like the early 2000s.
Oh no.
And I was like, can we make it something like, can we add something that's a little bit more fantastical so we make sure that people know that it's fantasy? And they were like, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, like let's go ahead and add. But whenever I got it back, I was just like, oh my God, people are gonna love it. And they do. They're just like, I'm obsessed with your cover. And I'm like, good. It's eye-catching. It's what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm definitely I can definitely say that because I am a cover person. If I don't like the cover and it's like there I've gotten books and I'm like I did like this cover, just I don't like this cover, but I have to read it anyway because it's like for review or something, and it's like, oh, and then I end up loving the book and I'm like, oh God, please tell me they're gonna change the cover to this. Please tell me this is not the final cover.
that old saying that we've heard for I don't know how long when we were kids, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
We always do.
Oh,
we
yeah.
always judge a book by its cover. Whenever it comes to actual books, I 100% judge it by its cover.
There have been a few books. I think it was Mermaid Moon. I didn't care for the book, but like I still have my copy because the cover is just so gorgeous because it has like the sprayed colored pages and everything. And then you take the cover off and it's got like this beautiful fantasy thing underneath of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep it because I like the cover and everything, which I know it's kind of like, it's like what we were talking about before about like the Spanish editions and stuff. It's like, it's just going to sit there, but it's so pretty. I don't care. It's going to sit there.
I get to show it off and people are like, what is this? The new covers that I'm obsessed with.
Oh, I know. I wish they would have done those in hardback.
I know. Well, I know, but they're so gorgeous. I'm obsessed with the Lunar Chronicles. Like it is 100% my favorite YA series to date. And I was just like, oh my God, these covers are mind blowing. They're so beautiful.
I love those. Like they started reproducing the Iron Face series. And they put them in the paperback. I'm like, why aren't you putting these in hardback? Please, I need them in hardback.
They did that. There's a series called I bet I have it down here somewhere. Called The Winner's Kiss by.
Oh yeah.
They had the most beautiful covers, like the first edition. But then they changed the last edition on the paperback. And so they changed the look of the covers. I'm like, great, now I have covers that don't match.
See, but they were nice though, because like they were gonna change it mid-series. And then I guess people really I remember seeing like slews of tweets and stuff like, don't change this until it's done. And because it was only a 3-book series. Yeah. And so they didn't. They waited until it was only the paperbacks. So they didn't change the hardback covers. And I was like,
yeah, they changed the paper. That's what I had been doing. I had been getting the paperback though. So they screwed me, but it's fine.
I think one of the hardest ones that I ever did was there was one called Natural Born or something. I've got the first 2 books in hardback. The last one only came out in paperback. And I'm like,
oh, you know who else they did that with? Neil Schusterman's Ruin. Yes, they did. But Neil Schusterman's Unwind series. I had all of the original in paperback, and then the last one, they changed the cover on me again. And I'm like, cool, I guess I just won't have that. I'll just get it from the library. It's fine.
Then you have ones where like they've kind of gone crazy. Well, the Ember in the Ashes. I love this series. Don't get me wrong, but like the first book came out, and then they changed the cover to the second book. But at least they kind of still match. Now they have these people on because they changed it again, and I'm just like, couldn't they have just gone with the UK covers? Those are beautiful.
Oh yeah. Well. Yeah, I actually really liked the original covers. I don't know why you have the people on there. I was just like the abstract.
People just look weird.
So pretty.
The last one's pretty. The Sky Beyond or whatever it's called.
Well,
that cover's pretty.
They're all pretty, but like compared to the first one, I was just like, oh, but I love this so much. I feel like it conveys the grittiness of those novels in a way that the new covers don't. But
yeah, definitely.
And
have you seen the UK covers to those though?
I don't think I've seen the UK.
You should look up the UK covers to those because it's kind of like the first ones, but better. They are so gorgeous. Like they are amazing. Yes, but better. Okay. They're still amazing.
I'll have to look at it.
So let's see. We have a writing question. I just loved your characters in all of your books. So you have a pen.
Oh, thank you.
How did you go about creating your characters, or how do you go about creating your characters?
Well, I would say they're not based off real people. If if anybody's curious out there, um, I I would say my characters, their attitudes, their values, and all that stuff is basically driven a lot by what I want that plot to be and what I want that world to be. So if you've read Kiss of the Royal, you probably know very well who Zach and Ivy are and the two worlds and the two values that they represent, right? So Ivy is very much the stickler for rules, and she belongs in the Legion where, you know, you rule by logic and not emotion. And so she is more of that stoic type personality where, you know, stubborn, doesn't have a lot of laughter and life to her. I mean, you get that eventually, but like you just don't see that. She's a very serious person, which is very representative of the values and the world that I wanted her to come from. And then you have Zach, who is the exact opposite of Ivy because he comes from the exact opposite world of hers. Like he is from the Romantica who actually believe in love and emotion and feel like that makes you stronger and not weaker. And he's all about emotion. He's all about life and sarcasm and being funny and poking her to just get a reaction. So I would say that's a lot of how I come up with my characters is I think about the values and the worlds in which I want them to represent. And I feel like, you know what does that amazingly? Avatar: The Last Airbender, my favorite show. And sorry, I know so any of my friends who are watching this, they're like, "Oh my god, Lindsay's talking about Avatar: The Last
No,
Airbender."
that
Okay.
makes total sense because there's a part of that show where the stars come down, and it sounds like the other book that you had written.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Of course, you've got the air nomads, the Water Tribe, the Earth Kingdom, and the Fire Nation. And if you look at all of those individual characters, like Zuko and Toph and Aang and Katara and Sokka, they all represent the values of those different worlds
Mhm.
really, really well. Character development's awesome in there, but you like Water Tribe values family. And you have Sokka and Katara, both from the Water Tribe. They're brother and sister. They care so much about their parents. It's even a meme with Katara. She's just like, "Oh yeah, my mother died," and that is just like a joke throughout the internet. But it does exemplify what they stand for really well. And so I think because I was so obsessed with that show, I took inspiration from that. And whenever I create my characters, I really think hard about the world that I'm creating and then the plot that I want them to convey. Is that
Mhm.
a good answer? Is
Oh
that
no,
good?
that sounds great. That's awesome. I'm gonna see how these banners work on here. Ooh, okay, that looks
Oh,
nice.
that looks
So,
really nice.
will we see a sequel or follow up to Roaring?
So boring. Oh man, I would love it, but it was really meant to be a standalone. It's kind of like Kiss of the Royal, in which if I were to do any kind of sequel or anything in that world, it would be more like a companion novel, just to
Mhm.
explore the world more, not to explore the characters, because I feel like Ivy and Zach's story is done. I gave them their happy ever after, like they're good. And I would say even Colt and Eris have their own happy ever after. So if I were to go back and do anything in those books, and Roaring especially, it would to be exploring more the world and the aftermath of the world and what that's supposed to look like. But I think the characters themselves would be done.
Do you think you'll ever do a series?
I'm actually working on my first series right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I announced it back in the fall, but it's going to be another paranormal. But this time it is contemporary paranormal. It is set in today's world, not counting in for COVID. They will not be wearing masks. We are just going to assume the world is good again, and we're all vaccinated and everybody's happy. But yeah, it will be contemporary. It's going to be paranormal, and the really the only thing I want to say in regards to that, it is going to be about a storm chaser and the storms that she is chasing.
Oh, I think I remember seeing a post for that.
Yes.
Sounds kind of like, was it Roar? I don't remember.
Yeah.
So like she controls storms, though.
So the actual MC, she's not going to have any powers, but it is technically about otherworldly beings that do have the ability to manipulate weather and manipulate storms. They're going to be set in Kansas, so she's going to come from a storm chaser family and a family of meteorologists. So I got to watch a lot of storm chasers from the Discovery Channel back in like early 2000s to learn about, you know, I can't even think of a term right now, but I was learning all that type of stuff for this book. And then the creatures that can actually manipulate those storms.
Ooh, I like it. Gives you a reason to watch Twister.
Yeah. It's really funny, and I'm going to regret admitting this. I have never seen that movie. I know.
Well, you look like you're only like, what, in your early 20s?
Oh, thank you. No, I'm actually 30.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Like I'm almost 40, so I'll be 39 this year, but it's like, were you born around the time that was out?
It was out in the late 90s. So I would have had to have been like a kid watching Twister, and I was scared of Ursula at the time. So there's no way that I was watching.
Right. The tornado coming in and cows flying all over the place. Well, you should definitely watch it because it's amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've heard good things. Like it's a kind of a classic that I actually do I think it's on Netflix. So I think I might have to go check that out. Like maybe this weekend I'll have time and I'll watch it.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do. You need to go watch it.
Okay.
So what have you been reading this year?
What have I been reading this year? Not a lot, guys. COVID and this year, 2021, I'm going to assume that kind of applies to this past year. Not a lot. I would say I have, 2020 was just such a dumpster fire for everybody that instead of reading, I watched a lot of shows. And I reread some of the classic ones that I really like. Obviously, I reread Cinder and the Lunar Chronicles. My friend is trying to get me to read Dune. So that movie is coming out, and all of my friends really, really love it. Red Rising. I've been into kind of sci-fi lately, and also some true crime. I read a lot of true crime. There's a serial killer book out there called Find Me, and I forget the name of the author, but I definitely read that. Yeah, I would say just some random sci-fi here and there.
Copy of Dune you have there.
Oh yeah, it's intense. Like I told my friend's husband, and he was like, "That's my favorite copy. Oh my god, I love that book so much. I'm gonna send it to you." And I was like, "You really don't have to send me. Like, I'll just get it from the library." And he sent me, like, of course, the most expensive looking copy of that book. I was just like, "This is huge. How many read this?"
So, because I got hired at a used bookstore over here in January, and then like COVID really here in Florida, so we closed down, and we were doing like sales on like Amazon and stuff. And it's funny because you'd walk in and you get a list of books that we need to find to ship out, and it's like true crime. It's like, okay, everybody's reading about murderers right now. It's like the only thing that was selling. It was insane.
Yeah, let's see. I picked up I'll Be Gone in the Dark, but I haven't read it yet. I know there's also like an HBO series about that right now. I'm a big fan of the My Favorite Murder podcast, so anything that those girls recommend, I'm like, yeah, I'll look into it for sure. But yeah, so many Netflix shows more than anything else, just the occasional serial killer and sci-fi. And then I would probably say I reread a lot of my favorite young adult books just because it was, easy for me, and I was on deadline a lot for my own books. And it is hard, or at least it's hard for me when I'm on deadline for my own books, to read other writing that's similar because I'm comparing myself to like what's their writing style, and it can kind of stifle creativity sometimes. And I was on deadline for at least 3 books last year. So that was also just another reason that it was difficult for me to read.
Right. That's understandable. It's like you're over here watching all the true crime and stuff. I'm over here watching like the Big Bang Theory for the 800th time.
Oh man, don't get me. I was absolutely watching all kinds of funny shows as well, like The Good Place. I must have rewatched The Good Place like 5 times.
They're nice because, you know, I can like sit here on the computer. It can be on. I can listen to it, and I can do like posts or whatever. It's not something you have to really pay attention to.
Yeah.
They're nice.
The IT Crowd was another show that I rewatched a lot in 2020.
See, now I'm into watching Criminal Minds.
Oh, me too. I have watched the last 4 seasons. I think I took an entire month and I watched 2 seasons in a whole month, and I was just like, oh, I'm just crushing this right now. I love that show.
I think we're almost done with season 4, and I've watched that over the last, I think, week and a half or so, because I'll just let it play all day.
I think I'm on 8 at this point. It's not.
It's
healthy.
nice. I've like all I've seen on. There's so many. All I've seen on Facebook now is like, guys, watch the first couple of seasons on Netflix, and then you can jump over to Hulu and watch the last 2 that it's on there. And I'm like, yes,
it's everything. We just need to know.
It's crazy. So let's see. If you could be a creature from myth, what would you be?
Ooh, a creature from mythology. What would I be? I would probably have to say a mermaid. And I will say a mermaid because I was a swimmer when I was a kid. And I think I would be less scared of the ocean if I was a mermaid as well.
No, that's funny because I despise the ocean, and I always say the same thing because, like, you know, mermaids, you know, you don't mess with mermaids. They have magic in some of the mythologies and stuff. You know, sharks and stuff aren't going to bother them. The dark deep doesn't bother. They are the bosses of the ocean. You know, so I think I might not be so iffy about the ocean at that point.
They're ruler of the seas. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't know enough about the ocean. The ocean might as well be Mars to us in my because mermaids could actually exist. We don't know. They could. It was so funny. I was at the beach with my friends, and this is how terrified of the ocean. I would not go out very far, even though I am a very strong swimmer. I got state time in high school. I can swim, but I'm just like, no, you must respect the sea. It is dangerous. It will pull you in and destroy you. But there was a pod of dolphins going by. I saw those fins. I was like, guys, it's sharks. It's sharks. Get out. They're like, Lindsey, it's dolphins. And they're like that far away. So, yeah, needless
oh my
to
God,
say.
I would have completely freaked out. Like, I do not like the ocean at all. I would have freaked out so bad. You are not alone.
But I mean, I loved swimming when I was a kid. I loved The Little Mermaid, even though I was scared of Ursula. So I would probably have to say I'd want to be a mermaid. Yeah. Definitely not a vampire. Definitely not a werewolf. Probably a mermaid.
Right. No, I like the sunlight, and I don't want to glitter, so I'm good. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and watching this show tonight. Thank you, Lindsey, for coming on and sharing your book with us. Guys, make sure to pick up this book wherever you buy your books at. Is there a place to get like signed copies if they want a signed copy, or?
Yes, just go to my website and there's a link for a signed copy. I will also give, if anybody follows me on Instagram and sends me a direct message through Instagram saying that you watched the chat and you enjoyed it, I will absolutely send you a free signed copy of Roaring as a thank you and just to support me. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jessica. This was lovely. I'm so happy.
Thank
I
you
had so much
so
fun talking to you.
It's like now I don't remember if I have a print copy of Kiss of the Royal or if it was just from NetGalley. Because like now I want to reread it because I haven't read it in forever.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Join us tomorrow here on YouTube live with Lori Forrest, author of the Black Witch Chronicles. We are going to be talking about our top 10 romance books, which more than likely will be more because I cannot weed out my list. And then you can also catch me live on my Instagram account at Crossword Review as you guys get to help me choose a book to read over the weekend. And I'm not going to show you the titles, but something I'm going to start doing every weekend.
Oh, that's fun.
Show 5 books on there. You guys get to choose what I read. So we will catch you guys later.